Hello Internet, my name is Eder, and welcome to another episode of Film Editorials. The topic of today's video is the Assassin's Creed movie that just came out, which of course is based off of the Assassin's Creed video games. Unfortunately for everybody involved, this film perpetuates the stereotype that movies based off of video games are terrible. If you're not familiar with the games, the basic overarching story structure to each of the games, and all the games combined, is a combination between a Dan Brown novel and an episode of Ancient Aliens. That is to say, there is a conspiracy involving the Knights Templar, who are in control of basically everything, and there are really technologically advanced artifacts scattered around the world that used to belong to this ancient civilization that enslaved and controlled humanity. The Knights Templar want to find these artifacts because they can then enslave humanity on their own terms, and the Assassins organization is basically just trying to stop these artifacts falling into the hands of the Templars. That's how basically every game goes, and that is also how this movie works as far as a plotline goes. Immediately after I finished watching this movie, I went to Twitter and Facebook, and I commented that watching this film is like trying to make lemonade with a really expensive juicer, a very tiny lemon, and absolutely no sugar. And the issue of the story, I feel, is the really tiny lemon. That is to say, it's the ideas behind the film, the quintessential things that will make this lemonade taste like lemonade. I'm sorry for the extended metaphor and simile. We're going to be sticking with it for a while, so bear with me. Now, the plotline I've just enumerated is one of the big problems this movie has, and that's the tiny lemon, because there's not a lot to go around here. And in fact, the games have never been great on telling the story that I was just trying to impart to you, partially because it's very weird. You have a conspiracy about global domination, you have ancient alien artifacts, you have an ancient civilization, you have the fact that the people who kill everyone are the good guys, and it's scattered throughout all of history as well. I don't think I mentioned that, and that involves using your genetic DNA to live through your ancestors. It's a neat idea, it makes for, fun gameplay in the video game, but in the movie they have to carefully explain basically all of these things. They skip over the ancient alien civilization because I guess they assume that's going to be like way too big for most audiences to handle, but that's a big part of the story and how these things came about. So on the one hand, you have a really tenuous plot structure, something that would not hold up to a lot of scrutiny anyway, and then it's spread really thin and they don't do it justice. Also, in spite of the cast, more on that later, the actors don't have anything to work with. Like, you can tell Michael Fassbender is trying to act his way out of most of these really awkward, poorly written scenarios, but at the end of the day, they're still awkward and poorly written because he has nothing to work with. Now that brings me to the next part of my lemonade metaphor, which is the really expensive juicer. This movie starts off with the 20th Century Fox logo and the Ubisoft logo, so you know there's a lot of money behind this film, and you can tell that they were working really hard on it, which is why they would release it on Christmas weekend. And you can see that also in the top 4 billed cast members, who are Michael Fassbender, Marion Cotillard, Jeremy Irons is the main bad guy, and you have Brendan Gleeson, who likes to show up in these kinds of movies. I'm thinking of Kingdom of Heaven, and that movie was probably a better Assassin's Creed movie than this one is, but whatever. They're big names, they're big actors, they've done famous and interesting and good things. Not this movie. And again, not because their acting isn't very good, but because they have nothing to do. For a lot of the shots involving Jeremy Irons, he's looking at glass, either out of a window, or at a computer screen, or at some other display. You can't really act well when you're just looking at things. It's not interesting, it's not compelling, he doesn't have anything to do, he doesn't give many good speeches. That's like part of his character, is that he doesn't give good speeches. And you have Jeremy Irons. Jeremy Irons is great at giving speeches. Let him give good speeches. Marion Cotillard, another capable actor, also doesn't have anything really to work with because she is our font of exposition. She has to explain everything that's going on in the entire, basically, movie universe to Michael Fassbender, who's supposed to not know anything about it. Quick tangent from the lemonade metaphor for a second, but I think this is the problem with video game movies, because the fact that she has to explain everything going on in the universe means that the director and the filmmakers don't trust the audience to know what's going on. So it makes you ask, who is this movie for? Is this movie for die-hard fans who are going to recognize the sound of the eagle cry as you jump off a building? Or is it for people who have never, ever, ever, ever played the video games before? And this movie and the Warcraft movie earlier this year both show that the correct answer is neither of those people. It is for somewhere in between, people who have heard of the game but have never played it or something, and that's not how to make a good movie, because you're stuck in this weird limbo where you have references for the things heavily involved in the game. You have to be like a master of the game to understand the concepts. But at the same time, you can't know anything about the universe. And it has to get spoon-fed to you because you have to learn like 6 games worth of material in 2 hours. And it's very confusing, and it's very muddy, and it's very sloppy, and it doesn't help that this instance is sloppily done. Okay, back to the lemonade metaphor. You'll notice that I keep saying it's an expensive juicer, not that it's a good juicer. Because even though they spent a lot of money on this, and you can tell by how much of the film is CGI, the CGI isn't very good. There were a number of instances where I could tell that Michael Fassbender got replaced by a digital stunt double version of himself, only to get re-replaced by his usual in-person version, and it's sloppily done. You can see it in the movie. Just, he like wiggles weird, reacts very unnaturally, and then returns to normal and acts like a normal human being. Come on, this is a multi-million-dollar movie. You can do better than that. It's based off a video game. The video game has less of these weird glitches in it. Okay, maybe not Unity. And this in turn brings me to another point, which is a number of you are going, or have been going, but Andrew, the point of these movies isn't the story, or like the plot, it's about action, it's about, assassinating people. Well, let me tell you, friend, that doesn't happen either. The appeal of these games is like running on rooftops, and jumping off, and killing the bad guys and stuff, all these normal video game things. That basically barely ever happens in the movie. Only about 30% of the movie is set in 1492 Spain, as opposed to a standard one of the video games where it's like 90% of the video game is set in the past, not in the future when all the boring plot stuff is happening. And then during the occasional action scene, they're really heavily edited. The filmmakers don't let any of the action set pieces breathe. There's like an establishing shot showing you basically where you are, and that's all CGI and orange. And basically from then on, it's cut, 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 cut. There's never a shot of people running on rooftops for a long time, so that you get the sense that they are doing actual parkour and free running. No, it's like, oh look, they jumped from one section of the roof to the other section of the roof. Cut, feet landing, cut, a goon pops out of somewhere, cut, Michael Fassbender punches the guy, cut, guy reacts by falling off the roof, cut, back to the running, cut. It just never stops. And there's these weird first-person sections, which, since the game is not in first-person, is really weird. And then it's difficult to tell basically any other information besides that, that might be a bad guy, and I think that's Michael Fassbender, but I'm not 100% sure, because everything is very, very dark in the film, visually. And this brings me to the part of the lemonade metaphor which involves absolutely no sugar. This movie's not fun. There is one time in the film where, if you are unlucky enough to see it, you might laugh. I think I did like a single ha. It might just have been like a heh. And it's funny because Michael Fassbender says, "What is going on?" Except he throws in an F-bomb, which, since the movie's rated PG-13, is the only thing that makes this movie PG-13. This movie also doesn't have any satisfying emotional moments. They try at one point where the estranged relationship between Michael Fassbender and his dad, but since we barely know either character, in fact I would say we don't know his dad at all because Michael Fassbender doesn't know his dad, so there's this moment where I think they were trying to elicit some emotion, and they fail spectacularly. And then, of course, there are all the plot holes and logical leaps you have to make, in addition to the actual physical leaps that the digital characters make. And then there's the aggressive intrusiveness of both the music and the CGI ambiance. The music is so out of place it's almost laughable, except the fact that you can't hear yourself think over, how loud it is and how you're trying to focus on the dialogue, but good thing there's subtitles in the Spanish sections because otherwise you wouldn't be able to hear anything over the sounds of drums. And then there are a number of scenes where you can barely see Michael Fassbender's face because there's so much stuff in front of it, like dust and these giant hollow projector things that are shining over his eyes, so good luck trying to read his facial expression when he's having this moment with his past self. One other thing I did respect about this movie was that the parts of the movie that are set in the past are set in Spain in 1492, and all of the characters in that time frame are speaking Spanish. And I appreciated that because it's actually some historical accuracy, and you don't have them worrying about trying to make sense of why they speak English in 1492 Spain. So that's kind of nice. And while we know the top billed cast is capable from other projects, the lower down on the totem pole actors I don't recognize really from anything else. And it's unfortunate that the filmmakers try to rely on them to communicate other themes of the film. Like there's this one security guard who has a couple moments, and I don't know why he was featured. Like maybe he's related to somebody because he adds nothing to the plot. And then there are also a couple other people going through the process that Michael Fassbender is going through who are basically assassins, and I am still not 100% sure whether or not they like Michael Fassbender, which is a problem because I've seen the movie and I should know what their relationship with him is. Like I think they're friends now, but I'm not 100% sure because they're really poorly written and you get introduced to them when they're bad guys and then they seem to have this sudden like, wait, he's a good guy. But then again, he also has a, wait, I'm a good guy moment. So who the hell knows? I don't know. This lemon is way too small to make a lemonade out of. Okay, if I stand here long enough, I'm sure I'm going to find other things to complain about with this movie, but let's just move on to the final score. I'm going to have to give Assassin's Creed 1 star out of 5. On paper, the cast looks really good because you've got 4 really strong lead actors, and the fact that they actually speak Spanish in 1492 Spain is kind of a bold move at this point. Trusting the audience of an action movie to read subtitles for extended periods of time is kind of ballsy, so I respect that decision. But on the other hand, the plot is uninteresting and stupid. The action is overly dark, incomprehensible, and rated PG-13, which is weird for an Assassin's Creed movie. And what's also weird for an Assassin's Creed movie is that the movie is actually kind of boring because it's talking followed by incomprehensible action followed by a little bit more talking followed by a little bit more incomprehensible action, which doesn't make any sense. I wanted to give this movie something higher than 1 star out of 5, but I can't justify it. Just because I want them to make a good Assassin's Creed movie doesn't mean that I can bump this score up to something to indicate that this movie was watchable, because it's really, really bad. Okay, that's going to be it for today's video. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to like, favorite, share, subscribe, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Snapchat. Leave a comment down below if you think my theory about video game adaptations holds any weight, or if there's some video game movie I'm not thinking of that's excellent. And if this fairly negative review has got you down, don't forget to check out my friends at The Good News Review, tgnreview.com, where they post positive, substantive news stories on the internet. That'll be it for today. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!